Bolanle Agbaje is a member of the economic think tank and a research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. She's bringing oil, cocoa, and everything else onto the table this morning as we do this commodities market news. Bolanle, we will all age up on Tuesday,
yes.
And then this is Thursday, about 72 hours after we've seen the retaliation, what the Iranian says is proportionate
yes.
to what the U.S. did on Friday. So, well, so this is where we are. Oil prices went to 72. We're now back to 65, which was around where we all were before that Friday incident.
Yeah, like I mentioned on Tuesday, like the things that are going on about, this Iran and U.S. situation. It's not really predictable as we speak. We didn't expect Iran to retaliate so soon, although we're happy that no lives were lost as a result. At least no U.S. lives were lost as a result. But initially, we had seen oil prices climb up to $69 per barrel yesterday, and now it's back to $65 per barrel based on, Trump's speech on the fact that he believes Iran is, trying to take a seat back and not
try to de-escalate.
Exactly. So, but we still believe that there's still some risk, especially to do with the Strait of Hormuz as we speak, and we don't know, we can't really predict Iran's, move because they're sometimes very irrational. And it's just nice to understand that, oil prices are more or less taking a seat back as well because we haven't seen any significant changes.
It is interesting also that yesterday the oil prime minister for the UAE says, look, we're not holding an emergency OPEC meeting on this. We see no disruption to supply.
Yes.
And it looks like in everything that Iran has said so far, nothing suggests that the Strait of Hormuz is in very serious danger, at least for now.
Yes.
I think that pulled back investors. Everybody just pulled back and said, look, maybe we've been a little bit irrational.
Exactly.
In going all the way to 72 is not in anyone's interest, technically speaking, again, depending on which side.
It's in our interest in Nigeria, but...
That's what I said, technically speaking. It depends on whose interest that you're looking at. But again, this is one big story, and we'll talk a little bit about more oil, but the cocoa was a big story. Just under the radar, while crude oil, U.S.-Iran tension was making the headlines. What's the big story here between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire?
Yes, so when you look at cocoa, when it comes to Ghana and Ivory Coast, they obviously they control 60% of the market. They currently produce about 3.5 million tons of cocoa. And, I think it was Q3 2019 where they had come together to look for what to do about the price fluctuations, because now cocoa prices are trading at about $2,500 per ton, and we had seen prices move up to about $3,000 per metric ton initially in 2015, and this has come down to almost about $2,000. In fact, below $2,000 at some point in 2017, and now they're trying to protect themselves because it's their major source of income and revenue, and so they've come together to form a cartel and look for ways they can, combat this price fluctuations. Initially, last year also, they had come up with a solution about creating a price floor, which, they got some pushback against because, some analysts claim that it would cause havoc in the market. They tried to set prices at about maybe $2,700 per metric ton, and there was no clarity on how prices would move based on that.
Which was the whole idea of between Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana about rewarding cocoa farmers.
Yes, exactly. The main interest, the key interest here is kind of closing up that gap, the living income differentials when it comes to the farmers, and also boost the interest and maintain the interest of the farmers within the cocoa market. So I think because when you look at the numbers, a lot of farmers are actually living below $3 a day, which is not great, considering the fact that, chocolates is usually part of everybody's, meal in a particular day.
Cocoa is not rice, or chocolate is not rice. Well, it's not a staple.
It's not a staple, but it's something that most people can't necessarily do without. A lot of people actually reward themselves with chocolate.
Whenever
when they feel sad,
whenever chocolates come into the newsroom, folks swarm over it.
Exactly. It's something that...
That's an attraction there. Is it because it's sweet?
Yes.
What?
Of course, and it has obviously has its benefits when it comes to, you know, the variations, the dark chocolates, the milk chocolates, but it's controlled by a huge market. You know, we have the
What's your favorite?
Bounty.
Bounty.
Yes.
Bounty chocolate.
Yes.
But that's not an advertorial for that particular brand, by the way. What's also dark chocolate? You prefer it?
Well, no, it's not. It's not dark. It's milk chocolate. But you know, it's something most people, you know, venture into when they're trying to, you know, de-stress themselves and, you know, just feel excited about you know, themselves in a particular day. But it's I think the important thing here when it comes to this premium they're putting on prices, or they've discussed about putting on prices, I think they're thinking about putting a premium of about $400 on the current prices, which are currently at about $2,500.
I was shocked. I was shocked yesterday or so when I think it was on Tuesday. It just came up and said, "Oh, chocolate prices are going to go up." I think one of the international news channels just put it up on Twitter, on the site, and say, "Oh, chocolate prices are going to go up because Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana have decided to raise prices and all of that." And I said, "Hold on a second. Yes, if chocolate prices go up, what about the farmers? What about the value chain?"
Yeah.
But I've listened to this entire conversation over and over again. There's not a single soundbite from Nigeria, which is the fourth largest cocoa producer.
Well, actually the fifth, but I think with Nigeria, we've more or less taken a backseat. There've been talks about, you know, boosting our cocoa production. Currently, we produce at about 150,000 tons.
The whole fight,
which
the
is
whole
not...
fight to get cocoa farmers get a better deal. I haven't heard a single voice,
from Nigeria.
soundbite from Nigeria, which was one of the world's, years and decades ago, we're just around number one or number two.
Yes, we were. We're producing about 420,000 tons. But now we've more or less...
About 100,
I think
120.
oil has always been our main focus. It's still what we talk about.
So crude takes cocoa out
Yes.
of our portfolio.
It has done that, and many other agricultural products for a very long time. But I think now it gives room for, you know, Nigerians to become more interested in, because this premium price would actually increase our benefits and also our export revenue. So Nigeria tends to benefit from...
So if Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana fight for this and they get it through at the marketplace, whatever we export from Lagos, whatever,
would more or less...
will enjoy that benefit.
That's exactly. They will. We will definitely. And I think the way Ivory Coast and Ghana are trying to structure it is so that, you know, majority of their farmers get, you know, the benefits of this increase in prices. They would, you know, benefit from it, and also the marketers as well, and the cocoa processors as well. So it's something that would improve the value chain in general. But obviously, main focus on the farmers.
It's also on the farmers.
Yes, and also the fact that, you know, they've tried to combat, you know, global supply. There's been a global supply glut, which had, you know, been the reason why prices had been fluctuating so much. But, you know, they've claimed that how do you tell farmers that depend solely on cocoa production to stop producing? This is their only source of income. So the only other option is for them to increase and make them benefit more. And even there was a documentary they released at some point where some of these farmers had never tasted the final product of, you know, their labor. Some of them had never tasted chocolates before, and they tasted it for the first time. And it just shows you the level of poverty when it comes to, you know, the farmers dealing with this cocoa production.
You're preaching to the converted. I grew up on a cocoa farm, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I know what it takes to produce cocoa.
It's intense.
I know. It's intense.
Yes.
Intense. I was born of a cocoa farmer, by the way. So you're preaching to the converted when it comes to that. But let's just quick talk. We'll touch base a little bit with the soft commodities. But I just want us to check in with our kids are back in school.
Yes.
And all of that in the main. So I like the market survey when it comes to market prices.
Well, market prices are more or less, you know, trying to find their true value at the moment. You know, we're seeing adjustments, so gradual adjustments with demand and supply. So I think in the next few weeks, we'll probably see the true value of some of these prices. We're seeing some of them decline. We're seeing some of them increase. We're seeing some of them maintain status quo. So it just depends on which particular commodities you're looking at. With the likes of cement, like I mentioned, you're seeing an increase in prices due to the level of activity that was seen. Construction that was seen
on the government side.
On the government side and all that. With the likes of rice, it's kind of, you know, although we still have the border closures, where I think we've been able to survive this phenomenon that has happened. So we're seeing price of rice also taper down a bit. The likes of palm oil have remained stable. Beans has also, you know, although we've seen slight increases in the price of beans, maybe because, you know, the kids are back in school, it's time to...
Demand is up.
Yes, exactly.
Demand is up. Beans holds you much longer than rice,
exactly.
by the way.
Yes, so, and maybe they've consumed so much rice in the Christmas period, and now it's time to, consume something else. It's possible that's the the reason why. But we're seeing the price of beans inch up marginally, and and then other commodity prices have remained more or less stable.
In our local market.
Yes.
Where are we with tomato and the ingredients, as I like to put them?
Well, the ingredients like tomato, we're seeing prices taper down. Although when it comes to, I think right now we had seen the good harvest towards the end of last year. So at some point, when you see a shrink in supply, we should obviously see the impact of that the negative impact of that on prices.
You folks are not missing the stock market rally.
Well, last year in 2019,
we had about 500 billion.
Yeah, and we didn't actually see that rally in the beginning of this time last year, and it seems like more or less the market is taking the right effects. So it's actually called the January
Christmas
effect.
Is coming late.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, we're done with Christmas. Okay, this is the January effect. Okay, that's good. And I think
taking advantage of lower prices that we had seen towards the end of last year. I think more investors are locking in now.
I heard folks were making phone calls frantically. I spoke with a few analysts and all that last night, and they said, look, even those who are on leave are calling their brokers and say, hey, hold on a second, I shouldn't miss this buzz.
He's probably spent so much money, over the holidays and now looking for how to...
Once the prices move.
Exactly.
They say, getting on the game, this is where the real deal is. Okay, let's check back with the crude oil market. And again, I'm still interested in what the outlook is. There are quite a lot of permutations during the crisis over the last few days. Where it lasted, some folks were heading to 80. They want to talk about 100. Some folks says we shouldn't just chase this. We should just go for gold and what have you. So what's the outlook from FDC?
From FDC, we think that prices should hover around $65 to $70 per barrel. And that's just because there hasn't been any significant changes to the fundamentals of, oil prices and oil demand, oil supply. We do expect, obviously, I think something I forgot to mention is the trade deal, the U.S. and China trade deal.
On the 15th.
Yes, and China is supposed to sign, a deal, the first phase of the deal very soon. And
looks like that will happen.
Yes. It seems like, the Iran and U.S. tension is taking precedence now, and there's less focus on, there's less noise when it comes to. So I think now they're probably focusing on, moving on from this trade deal that has been going on for so long. So I think that would have a positive impact on prices. With the U.S., Iran is just a wait-and-see approach, probably wait and see on what happens. We do expect shocks to the system, but it's something we just have to...
If the deal is signed, will it be a major a game changer? Will it change anything dramatically?
Yes, it will, pertaining to the oil demand, because at least China can get going. They can move on from this noise, like I mentioned, and focus on the growth within their economy. The demand from China is huge when it comes to oil. And, when you have a situation where demand is growing as well as, OPEC trying to curb supply, then we should expect positive impact on prices. So I think that's where our focus should be at the moment.
So you folks were not surprised that President Buhari held some quick meetings with the petroleum junior petroleum minister, the NNPC folks, and say, hey, what's going on with this Iran crisis? Are we making money?
Yes.
Are we meeting production?
It's something we have to do because we're directly involved as well when it comes to, it's a major source of income. So if Ghana, you have the situation of Ghana and Ivory Coast coming together to, think about what to do to boost their revenue. I'm sure
in terms of
cocoa, I'm sure Nigeria is probably doing the same in terms of oil.
We should have that meeting as well. On cocoa,
yes,
not just on crude oil.
No, but I think I've heard about the cocoa board of Nigeria meeting to look for ways to. But cocoa is a long-term agricultural product, so if our supply hasn't been met to pre-crisis levels, it's something that would obviously take time before we get back to
And we just need to plan for the future.
We do.
I think we need
and increase interests.
Yes, and increase interest. Every time it's just crude, everybody jumps. And when it comes to cocoa, it just makes the back page or the inside pages of the newspapers.
But I hope someone is listening, because it's important to, you know, take advantage of this price premium.
Yeah, we have millions of listeners around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bolanle Agbaje from Financial Derivatives Company. We'll talk about